Hiya, I'm Dale Dickey, and this is You Might Know Her From with Damien and Ann. Yay!
Well, welcome back to another episode of You Might Know Her From
with Damien and Ann.
Hello, it is me, Damien.
It is me. Hi, fine folks. I hope that you're doing well today. Damien, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I feel a little bit crazed by exciting things that are happening, new interviews that are bristling for us, and new projects that we're working on outside of the podcast, and also just trying to keep my head afloat in this terrible world that we live in.
I appreciate your optimism. We had an interview recently, and I remember we were on Zoom with her, and they were like, "How are you?" I was like, "I'm great," and she was like, "Great," and I was like, "Yeah, I don't know why that was what came out. It's like I don't know that I would say I'm great. I think I'm doing okay, and that's okay with me." So I'm trying to be honest about where I am with things. I'm hopeful in New York that there's like, we hit the COVID high. Maybe we're going to be hitting a COVID low again soon. Winter is a motherfucker. It has been very, very cold. And yeah, I'm getting my period tomorrow. So that's where my body is at today.
Hallelujah. Okay, so officially reporting here as your official and just like that correspondent. I wanted to take an update real quick for all y'all who are watching the Sex and the City reboot, renamed and just like that. And I wanted to give a shout out to former guest of the show, Madhur Jaffrey, who appeared 2 episodes ago as former guest of this show, Sarita Chowdhury's mother in the Diwali episode. So wow to that. I also wanted to, pick your mind grapes, Anne, about how you were feeling about the insertion of a 4th person into so many of the scenes with the women in the most recent episode, like the most recent couple, where like Anthony now is appearing sometimes in brunch.
Anthony's having solo scenes with Carrie, which again, I don't think that works.
It doesn't really align with the history because they were not particularly one-on-one friends. And also, I just think that I know the show is a little bit backed into a corner in terms of what to do with Willie Garson and Stanford because Willie Garson was so sick. However, like, what is the status of Anthony and Stanford's marriage? Like, is Carrie taking Anthony's side if they're split, or is it like they're just like separated because of Stanford's like job opportunity?
I asked my friends this recently too, and apparently like in that letter, Anthony said in passing, like, oh yeah, also like he asked for a divorce. And I was like, is this really how they're handling this? It does feel like they did him dirty. And I agree, there wasn't really a great option, but I do think none of it makes sense, and it's not justifiable in the history of these characters' friendships. And I feel like, also, what was Anthony's job before? Like, the fact that he runs a bread company now seems really out of character. Wasn't he fashion?
Wasn't he Charlotte's wedding planner? And he
was a wedding planner.
He planned her wedding to Trey. Isn't
that
how
right.
they met?
That's right. I don't know. I don't buy any of it. It does feel shoehorned in. I get that they really need a 4th personality in that dynamic to make it sort of like bubble. But poor Sarita Chowdhury, who we love and adore, was in that dinner scene. And I just thought, like, why is she being forced to do this?
To me, though, she is the most organic new character that has been incorporated, because I feel like at least there's like a version of the world where it's like, I'm now a widow and I met my like beautiful single realtor who like we got very close because of this very big life thing that happened, and now she's like meeting my friends.
But I think what worked for me in this last episode was the auction scene, which I thought felt somewhat organic in terms of bringing all the characters together. What felt organic to Carrie's character and shitty was that she didn't tell Miranda that Che was going to be there.
So weird.
It's like, that is classic Carrie, but I feel like that was like a more organic way to bring them all together. I love Sarita Chowdhury. I love Nicole Ari Parker. And I feel like, the longer I sit with it, the more I guess some of it makes sense. But maybe the longer I sit with it, the more I'm willing to just like let bygones be bygones and be like, I can't wish it to be something that it's not. And it still is not good. Harkening back to a few episodes ago, I did think one of the things that felt truest and best was Carrie going to the plastic surgeon, played by like a very broad Jonathan Groff. And I felt like that scene felt organic. And then we got to see her head as the Wizard of Oz. Like, I
didn't like that the image that they rendered was like her at the age of 34. I thought that was stupid. I was like, just like show me what they would have really showed her. Don't show me a youthful face of Sarah Jessica Parker. I thought that was a dumb,
it was like what was her line was like, I remember her, and in my head I was flashing back to that scene in Hook where that little boy is like smushing Robin Williams' face, and I was like, there you are, Peter. That's a line reading that will live with me forever. Anyway, I'm still invested in it. I'm excited each week. Again, I think they've done Steve dirty. Steve I always loved, and it's painful to listen to him be so whiny and so miserable. Harry is disgusting, and I don't mean because like he's not as conventionally attractive as supposedly the rest of them, and I feel like he's just really annoying. And maybe, I don't know, I mean, honestly, like the character might be written as anti-Semitic. I feel like they really are doing the most with him. Like that he basically announces, I'm Jewish every time he walks into the room.
Interesting. Was it always like that? I don't really quite remember.
I don't remember. I just feel like I never really cared about the men anyway, but I do feel like you made us invest in these men for a number of years, and now it's like, we want them all gone, essentially.
I always want to talk about it. It's like the first thing I do on Thursday morning. I like wake up early so I can watch it like while with my coffee so that I don't get spoiled and so I can like enjoy it. But then I'm like, I hate this.
I want to say that I was thinking about it because I caught up this week and I was remembering that I was like, I hate the character of Che. I think they made it a little bit more interesting now that Che was like actually engaged with Miranda and like was actively pursuing sex with her. So I'm hopeful that Che becomes less obnoxious of a character. Listening to them do like a tight 4 at that auction was rough. But I was reminded how much I loved Sada Ramirez and how our good friend of the show, Brenna, and I like saw Spam-A-Lot years and years and years ago. And we're like, who is Sada Ramirez? And they were so good. And I went back and watched like 7 bootlegs of them in Spam-A-Lot.
Recently?
And I was reminded, this weekend. That's what I did. And I was like, they're so good. And it's so shocking to me that they never came back to do Broadway.
It's a bummer.
You know, it's like Sada went on and made a like jazz record and then of course got legit famous, like TV famous on Grey's Anatomy, which I was not into the way that they did that character on Grey's Anatomy either, but like I was happy for their success. But really, their voice is so fucking astronomically incredible. It's shocking that they've never come back to do Broadway. So I'm back in the like Sada Ramirez bandwagon based on their talent alone, and I'm hopeful that Che maybe can redeem themselves.
It would have been cooler if Che was like a jazz, non-binary jazz singer.
No,
honestly.
because remember when Sex and the City had jazz and it was Craig Bierko as the bassist, and I was into Carrie being like, Carrie hated jazz.
I've been watching old episodes. The other night I was like feeling anxious and I was like, I can't start a new show. I just want to watch something I like. And I was like, let me revisit Sex and the City. And you know, the show is still funny, but it also is like so dated. And like I watched the episode where Carrie's dating someone she finds out is bisexual, and the way that they talk about him. I remember like making my decisions about bisexual men from this show where, you know, one of them is like, it's just a, you know, it's like a dotted line to becoming gay. And then the other one is like, it just feels greedy. And it's like, I remember like being like, yeah, like men can't be bisexual. Maybe a woman can be. And of course that feels so reductive. I'm not even sure if that's the right word. It just seems really like ignorant and misinformed.
Well, for a show that based a lot of its popularity and its groundbreakingness on being sex positive and about giving women sort of a lot of room and space to speak about their sexuality, it was very closed-minded, very vanilla sex, very heteronormative. So I'm like into them broadening their horizons, but at every step it feels pretty clunky. Also, that like Che's thing is just weed, and like how horny they are on weed all the time makes me laugh. It's just not my experience of weed. I don't get high and feel particularly horny.
I do.
So
I can relate.
Interesting. So you and Che.
Yeah, me and Che are very similar in that
That's
way.
not what happens to my body when I smoke weed.
It depends,
I get very quiet and contemplative, and then I fall asleep.
I'm like, I'm tired but horny.
You did text me that you were high watching Xanadu and the songs were making you horny, so that tracks.
I love me for not being anything but consistent, baby.
Oh, my goodness.
Before we get into the meat and potatoes of this week's episode, I just want to take a minute because of our timing with last week's episode. We were not able to acknowledge. We acknowledged a ton of dead people. Little did we know that we were conjuring another celebrity death. And very unfortunately and sadly, it was one that meant a whole lot to me. And that was the great Ronnie Spector, who passed away. I love her so much. I had seen her Christmas show. It was like an annual solo tradition of mine in New York for like the last 3 years. You and I got to see her together in Lincoln Center once, which was like a really fun and unexpected night where Lizzo was was also there before she was
Yeah,
a huge
and
star.
Nona Hendrix. That was a great night.
And was Valerie Simpson there and also like messing the words up?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a wonderful night. And like I love Ronnie Spector so much. My dog is obviously named in part after Ronnie Spector. So I just wanted to put that out there. She's so great. If you aren't familiar with Ronnie Spector and the Ronettes, please dig into their catalog on Spotify or wherever you listen to music. Just take a little time with them today. She just like had such a cool textured voice and also just like an incredible story. So shout out to Ronnie Spector, R.I.P. Me and Ronnie over here are gonna, pour one out for you tonight.
Love her so much. Also, just so glad that she outlived Phil Spector. I hope that this is the end of the like train of celebrity deaths for this year. So, yes, pour one out for the great Ronnie Spector. We love you, Ronnie. Folks, it's good to be back with you. We're sort of like hitting that stride of, I know it takes a couple of weeks for people to ease into the new year. We're in it. We're here. It's like MLK Day. We're here. We're in it. We ask you this every episode, but it is very important that if you are a fan of this show and if you love what we're laying down and you want to help us keep doing what we're doing and keep booking great guests, let us know who you want to see on the show. We're going to try and book those people for you. We have had requests and nailed them before, so we would love to do that for you. But the best thing you can do for us is leave us a review on the Apple Podcast app. Give us 5 stars, an emoji, a name, an episode you loved, compliment our bodies, whatever you want to do. Those things are the things that boost us to the top of the algorithm and help us get to keep doing what we're doing. So please leave us that review. We love you so much.
Folks, this week we have such a treat for you. We got to sit down with the great Dale Dickey, who you absolutely know from a million different things. And what I love about Dale is it doesn't matter if she has like the lead role or if she has 2 lines as like a bartender opposite Barbra Streisand, she is going to nail it. And it's just like the specificity in her work. We really get into all of this, but I just love that her ability to master accents and like really specifically, she often plays Southern and she really masters accents from all over the South, like how broad that spectrum is.
Yeah.
I was very taken with that. I am a person who like every accent I do sounds like a bad Southern accent or sounds like a bad Cockney accent. So I was just really taken with people who have like an ear for that. And I was just really smitten with that.
You might know her from Winter's Bone,
My Name is Earl,
Leave No Trace,
True Blood,
Iron Man 3,
The Guilt Trip,
and Breaking Bad. We are so excited to be gifted with the presence of the great actor Dale Dickey. Dale, welcome to the show.
Hi, yeah. Thank you for those kind words. I'm glad to be here.
Dale, we're really excited to chat with you for a number of reasons. Of course, you won the Indie Spirit for your work in Deborah Granick's 2010 film Winter's Bone. And I was so tickled when I went back and listened to your acceptance speech because you thanked the people of my home state of Missouri. The movie, of course, launched Jennifer Lawrence's career, but I was mostly obsessed with the fact that you shot on location in Missouri, deep in the Ozark Mountains, with lots of local, like, non-actor hires. A young Jennifer Lawrence was, like, splitting wood, skinning squirrels, but did you get in on any of that? Can you describe your sort of Missouri boot camp experience for Winter's Bone?
It was a beautiful experience. The fact that Deborah Granick and Ann Mussolini both went down there in pre-production and really got to know the people of the land. They wanted locals to be involved in the movie, but they wanted them to understand what the subject matter was. And so she made sure everyone had read the book. And anyway, everyone wanted to be a part of it. Almost everyone knew someone that had been touched by the meth problem. And there's one family, the Laysons, who just opened up so much of it is filmed on the Layson farm. There were several different compounds. Actually, the Layson's little granddaughter is the little girl in the film.
It's wild.
That plays the little sister. Because in the book, it's 2 brothers, and they couldn't find a younger one. And they just fell in love with this child, and they let him use him. So we all went down early and spent as much time. I know John Hawkes was there for several weeks, sort of just blending into the bar scene. And I was working on My Name is Earl at the time, and it was their last season. So I did not get the luxury of being down there for that long, but because I know those areas and I'm from Knoxville, Tennessee. I mean, I understand those people, but I was still there long enough where interacting with the Laysons really informed who we were, and they were just beautiful, wonderful people. Everyone was, but particularly that family, and it was a hard time. It was right after the recession, or one of the Wall Street falls. I can't remember.
So, Dale, you get to throw hot coffee in Jennifer Lawrence's eyes and then hit her across the face with the mug in the film. What kind of dynamic did you two have on set? And what did she whisper, if you feel comfortable sharing? What did she whisper in your ear right when you won the Indie Spirit Award?
Wow. I don't remember what she whispered. I was such a complete shock and nervous wreck. It was the first award of the 9. That was a little stressful because I knew it was coming soon, but I didn't expect it to win. I knew Winter's Bone had a lot of love in the room. And I remember maybe it was someone right before we went up was talking about don't spend your time thanking each and every one of us individually. Thank the people of, Missouri, which is what I was doing. And then I realized, I don't even think I really thanked Jennifer, who I am a supporting actress with her. Of course, I thanked her later, but just in the heat of the moment, I don't remember anything, to be honest with you. You know what? I'm going to have to find out now what it was she whispered in my ear. I'll have to track her down. You know how to reach her. No.
Yeah, we've got the number.
And there was a question, just interacting on set with Jennifer. She was still young, like I think only 18, maybe just turning 18. But she was just so down to earth and natural and real and fun and funny and simply beautifully gifted, talented. And it was hard to be mean to her. That was difficult, but she threw it right back at me. I mean, I could tell the one scene, I think it's the first scene when she first comes to the house and I come out on the porch and I'm asking her to leave and I keep telling her over and over again. And Deborah Granick had us do a lot of improv towards the end where it's like, Jennifer, don't leave, and Dale, do everything you can to get her out of there. And that bitch would not, sorry.
No, you can use it all.
She would not get off my friggin' land. I mean, I tried every which way but loose to get that child to turn around. And I think that's what, character-wise, the first time Mirab sees there's something really beautifully strong about this young woman, the fact that she's standing up to us, and yet she's pissed off that she won't friggin' leave. But, Jennifer kind of won the day. Even though she did leave, Jennifer really won that round.
I really love Deborah Granick's work, and I was so excited to see you show up in her beautiful 2018 film, Leave No Trace, about a man suffering from PTSD. He lives off the grid in the Pacific Northwest with his teenage daughter. So Granick seems to sort of use some of the same actors in multiple projects, because both you and Isaiah Stone showed up in this. He was also in Winter's Bone. What do you think it is about you that makes you such a good fit for a Deborah Granick project?
I think Deborah looks and likes to use real people versus actors trying to fit into a part of the world that may not be natural to them. When I was first in New York, I had a casting director tell me very early on that the most important thing, I was like, I don't want to be typecast, I want to do this, I want to do Shakespeare. And he's like, no, you want to be typecast, you're Southern, you read Southern, it's all over you. There's something rural about me that's just inherent. And Deborah can sense that, and I think she places people that have that organic sensibility. I was thrilled when they called me to do Leave No Trace, and it was very strange that the character's name was Dale.
Yeah. That was coincidence, or they...
I really don't know. In the book, I always, read the book, but the book is the film strays quite from the book, and this person is identified in the book, but I don't think they're ever given a name. And I think they just gave the name of Dale. I was a little nervous because I said, I'm worried that people, when they see my face show up on screen, it's like, oh no, don't leave her with the child. But, no, it was nice to play a benevolent character, and it's just such a beautiful script. And I get along really well with Deborah. She has a very specific way of directing and thinking and talking, and she's so brilliant, so cerebral, and I relate to it. I just understand it, even without speaking. I'd love to work with them again and again. And she's a really magical filmmaker.
Yeah, I highly recommend, obviously, Winter's Bone, which I think is on more people's radar, but Leave No Trace is beautiful and is streaming right now.
So, Dale, in our research, something that was really exciting to uncover for us was your very long theatrical career that includes credits like A Streetcar Named Desire and Sweeney Todd. You were in the ensemble of the famous 1989 Peter Hall production of Merchant of Venice, starring Dustin Hoffman, that went on Broadway. But one of your first big breaks was in the Chicago production of Steel Magnolias in the 80s. So this play seems to be a rite of passage for most Southern actresses. Former guests of this show, Beth Grant and Constance Schulman, have both done the play. We talked to them about it. Did the production launch your career, and did you feel like your Southern roots helped or hindered you when you were starting out as a young actor?
Oh, good questions. First of all, I adore both those women. I know Beth very well. Connie and I have never really worked together, although I believe we crossed paths at the University of Tennessee. I saw her in the original Steel Magnolias. She's a brilliant. I love when I see her pop up in things.
Yeah.
I hope to get to know her. I'd love to work with her someday. Anyway, so the question was, this was 1987, 86, 87 in New York. I worked at a restaurant on 107th up the street from where I lived, called 107 West. I was the go-to girl if people called in sick, because I could be there in like 10 minutes. So it was like a Sunday brunch, which they dragged me out of bed. But Robert Harling, the playwright, was in there for Sunday brunch with a friend, and I didn't know who he was. I just know that I'd seen him in the restaurant before, and I was their waitress that day, and we were chatty, and, finally he goes, "Dale, are you an actress?" I was like, "Yeah, aren't we all?" And he went, "Well, I don't know how he phrased it, because I'm part of a production that's been playing off Broadway that's doing really well. You'd be perfect for a couple of the roles in it. And as we cast down the line for the touring company or replacements, I'd love to consider you. I'd love to get you tickets to go see it and see if you're interested." And I'm like, "Great." I had not heard of Steel Magnolias. I think I'd heard of it, but I knew it was a play that was a big hit, but I didn't realize. I thought Bob Harling was like the stage manager. I wasn't sure. He never said his name, because we have a production. So once he gives me the contact number to call the theater, and they gave me tickets, and he goes, "This is how you can keep in touch with me. Let me know when you're doing something. I'll come see it." And I realized, of course, when I got home and I looked it up. We didn't have Google then. I'm not sure how I looked it up. But I was like, "Oh my God, he's a playwright." And of course I went to see the show the next weekend and just loved it. And I knew I could do Annelle or Shelby, but I'm definitely more Annelle, the character one, and I loved that role. And so, almost a year went by where I never got an audition. I never heard from them. I was working with a theater company called Manhattan Punchline. We were doing workshops and showcases, and I would send my postcards, "Please come see me." And finally, like 8 months later, I got a call from, I can't remember the name of the theater where it first played in the Village. Anyway, they were doing auditions for replacements and national tours and blah, blah, blah. And Pam Boleyn, the original director, brought me in. And so Bob Harling came through on his promise. He brought me in, got me an audition, and I clicked. And they originally were going to put me in the national tour, which then got delayed because the movie was coming out. And so then they put me in the Chicago. That was a really long explanation of that. I'm so sorry.
No, it's the thing. It's the kind of stuff that feeds us. We're very into it. I read this whole piece in the Chicago Tribune about you. It was Dale Dickey figured out the squirt, and it was talking about you washing the actress's hair, and it was Dickey figured out the squirt, and she was trying not to spray the audience, and I was and it was talking about how you were getting really mad if you would mess her hair up at certain nights, and I was oh, I'm obsessed with this.
Those were fun times, and I loved doing that play. Pam Boleyn and I ran into Bob Harling 2 years later. No, a year later. I was in Chicago for the whole year, 88 to 89. I got back, and then it was that fall that I got cast as one of Portia's train in the ensemble of Merchant of Venice, which, I'll stand backstage any day and watch Dustin Hoffman and those British actors where, I covered, I understudied Jessica and Nerissa, so I had to watch and work hard, but I just loved being in the wings. But I'll never forget, we were in the 46th Street Theater, which was Richard Rodgers. I was coming down from the stairwell, because we were way up high, on the 8th floor, and I'm coming down, and I see Robert Harling standing at the stage door. He's going to go visit Dustin. And he looks at me and he goes, "I want credit for finding you." He was shocked to see me. He goes, I saw your name in the program. I was like, what? I mean, I'd studied a lot of Shakespeare. I knew I could do that. It was, I got that from an open call. I never got anything from an open call except that job, and I was shocked.
That's a great full circle moment, too, for him to be able to see you making your Broadway debut after he sort of, put you on in his own way.
He really did. I think the thing about that Steel Magnolias was I'd not been able to get an agent. I'd been there for 3 or 4 years. I still never really had a full agent while I was there. But it was the first sort of confirmation that, okay, maybe I can do this.
You were quoted in a New York Times article talking about Southern actors, and you said that you've had people ask, can you teach me a Southern accent? And your response is like, okay, what state, what part of that state, what culture? You've played a wide variety of Southern women, but as an actor, what do you do when you're handed material that feels like broad strokes or feels like a stereotype?
I've done a lot of work here in Los Angeles with Del Shores, whose plays require some broad stroking. However, you're still in a little intimate theater, so you've got to find that fine line. And he writes from the heart and truthfully, but I do remember specifically, I had an audition. It was soon after I'd done Winter's Bone. I had an audition for a guest star in that show, I think called The Middle,
okay, yeah.
Where Brick, the littlest son, has an online relationship with this girl in Florida or Alabama, and the family's going to Disneyland. They stop by this girl's house to meet them. And I remember reading the script, and I hadn't done a sitcom in a while, and it read so big and broad and not stupid, but knowledge, which is something I don't want to be a part of. I don't want to be a part of ridiculing and making fun. And yet I knew there were some wonderful people involved and tremendous actors. And I got the spirit of it. Comedies are comedies. There's things written for a reason. And I try to always make everything real. And I know people like that, so I just went in and then I try to make the dialogue, even if it feels fake. I just try to ground it and make it as real as I can. But sometimes there's shows that I just organically, it's like I can't do this, and I had to turn down an audition or because I couldn't find a way in. It just read false to me.
Okay, so Dale, in 2013 you joined Alan Ball's HBO series True Blood for its 5th and 6th seasons. And at this point you had already won an Indie Spirit for Winter's Bone. You had memorable stints on Breaking Bad, My Name is Earl, Raising Hope. You had a Broadway credit under your belt. But now you were playing Martha Bosman, the matriarch of a werewolf pack. So our very important question here is that being such an established actor, what is it like to work with real wolves? I mean, you're constantly carrying around this baby wolf. We had former guest of the show, Eileen Davidson, start opposite a wolf in a Sam Raimi movie, and the animal trainer had to hold a slab of meat next to her face to get the wolf's eye light. So we'd love to hear about your experience working with wolves.
Well,
was it hard? Was it terrible?
No, I love animals, number one. And I'm fascinated by wolves. The problem with me as an actor being on a set with wolves is that you do not move, you do not touch, you do not pass go. It's like when you walk to the airport and the police officer's there with the drug dog. I'm always like, hey, doggy, hello. Don't touch the dog. Leave the dog alone.
Yeah.
I think it was my very first night of filming on True Blood. I am not kidding. I think it was 18 friggin' degrees. They were like, this is the coldest it's ever been on our set. Welcome to True Blood. It's just like, I'm glad I'm not one of those little naked extras, because but because we were filming up in the woods, they couldn't have the heaters in the tents, and the heating blankets didn't really work so well. So anyway, enough of that. The wolves. I do remember that when they had the real wolves out there, there were very specific things. You do not engage the wolf's eyes. You stay this far apart from the wolf. You let the trainers do their job. Don't pet, don't touch, do not engage them. That was the main thing, was don't look them in the eyes. Now, they did have some hybrids that they worked with.
They were part dog, part wolf?
Yes.
Is that who you were carrying around, that little baby? I assume there were more than one, but I was very into all of the photos of you with the baby.
the big ones from what I know, because I know Joe told me the wolf trainer or the wolf wrangler actually let Joe come up and spend some time with his wolf, where Joe really got to know the wolf and to be around it. So there was a wolf wrangler and trainer that did that. So they mostly used the wolves in the big sections, but yes, there were chunks of meat. Anyway, back to the puppies. This was the best part, because only the trainer and the handler and the actor working with the dog, the puppy, got to hold them. No one else could come near. That puppy was a hybrid, and there were several, but they used mascara to paint the markings to make them look alike. Yeah, when they would use the second puppy, they had mascara to paint it. You know, I think I'm telling the truth here. It was so long ago, but I remember asking them, so how? And they do it to make the markings. But they were so beautiful. They were just beautiful little. I think they're mostly husky.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay, Dale, we have entered the portion of the show that we like to call the rapid fire. It's rapid for us to take as much time as you need to answer the questions. It just allows us to sort of jump all over the place.
Oh, dear God. I suck at this, but all right.
Okay, here we go. Dale, you're often cast as a leader of some sort of pack or gang. Obviously, we talked about True Blood with the Wolves. In Justified, it was a religious congregation in a women's prison. And in your episode of Grey's Anatomy, it was bikers. So if you, Dale Dickey, had to assemble your own pack of Southern actresses in Hollywood, who would you choose?
Oh, dear God. Are you friggin' serious?
Unfortunately, yes.
It'd be a big MF pack, I'll tell you that. There'd definitely be Beth Grant. And Connie Shulman, I don't know if she's here. Does it have to be L.A., New York?
No. This is a hypothetical list. Connie Shulman's, I think, here in New York, so she's in the pack.
Margot Martindale. I don't know if Ann Dowd is Southern. I don't think she is. But she's quite Southern.
Yeah, we love that.
Look, y'all, my brain, there's...
That's good. Yeah. Okay, that's good. We've got Beth Grant, Connie Shulman.
Jennifer Lawrence.
That's true. She's a Southern girl.
If she would come join my pack, I'd be proud.
All right.
I'd throw coffee in her face. And you know who I really like a lot is Kim Dickens.
She is so good.
Yeah, we're into her.
She's so good.
She is always just straightforward, not enough money. I really, really like her work.
Me too.
I love that you shouted Kim Dickens out, yeah.
That's something I strive for, is that simplicity and that straightforwardness. I have a very animated face, but Kim just delivers. And I know I'm missing people, but
it's a good list.
Holly Hunter.
Oh, a classic Southern lady. Yeah.
I remember when I saw Broadcast News, I think it was the first film I'd seen where the heroine had a Southern accent. And it's like, well, why not? People move to New York that are Southern. But it's like they always had to have some sort of comedic thing about being from the South, some sort of Beverly Hillbillies story, and this didn't.
Yes.
And she just rocked my world in that. And I got to work with her briefly on a cable miniseries for TNT, another Bonnie and Clyde story, but it was with Emile Hirsch.
Right.
And I played Clyde's mama, and Holly played Bonnie's mama. And I've always been such a huge fan of her. And I remember when she walked in the trailer, I started crying.
Oh, my God,
I couldn't even meet her. And she's like this teeny tiny little bite-sized egg.
Yeah, she's phenomenal. That movie, for me, is also, it's a very important
She was
film.
also a big star in New York when I first moved there with the Firecracker Contest. So I remember seeing her posters up on all the construction sites. You know how they wash the posters up. And it's kind of following her career. And Kathy Bates got to join the pack, please.
Put her in.
Yeah, for sure.
We love Bates.
Jessica Lange, but she's not Southern, but you know.
She gets cast a lot.
All right, Dale. So you've worked with Del Shores, who you mentioned, and Beth Grant a few times. Originally, you played Glendora in the Sordid Lives universe, but then you took on the role of Sissy Hickey, originally played by Beth Grant in the follow-up movie, A Very Sordid Wedding. So are y'all friends, and was that situation a little weird?
Things can get a little weird in the Del Shores land, but no, they were not weird between the two of us. Beth and I, so much of what I did is not imitating Beth, but from the spirit of how she laid Sissy out. because I could never do what she does. We're very different, but I tried to incorporate that as I went on. We're very supportive of each other. I lost touch with her for a while, just as things got crazy with family stuff. But, as soon as I pick up the phone and call her, she's right there. And that's what I love about her. She's a good one.
When we talked to her, I think she had actually just talked to you the day before on the phone. So she had the same thing to say.
Yeah, she's been a real mentor and friend and inspiration.
Okay, Dale, you played Patty the daytime hooker in the long-running NBC sitcom My Name is Earl, a show which, look, go with me on this. It was later rumored, apparently, to be Scientology propaganda, since the creator and star and a few guest stars like Juliette Lewis and Giovanni Ribisi were all Scientologists. Did you feel any pressure to join Scientology during the run of that show?
Absolutely not.
Okay, just checking.
I was just thinking about My Name is Earl today because I just adore Greg Garcia. I recently auditioned for his new series, went on tape, and it came down to me and another actress, and he made the right choice, which was the other actress. But he sent me a really sweet email. You know what? I think I eventually found out on Earl, I came to the realization that a couple of the male stars were Scientologists, but I never heard the word mentioned. There were never any of those tables I hear about where they're trying to sign you up. I knew Giovanni was friends with Ethan. There were certain people I knew who were Scientologists, but it was never brought up and ever. So, no. I felt more pressure with Scientology when I lived on Bronson and Franklin, and they were all walking back and forth every day in front of me.
Yes. It is a very intense experience.
No, My Name was Earl was great fun, particularly when Betty White came on to play my mom. Greg told me, goes, we're going to get somebody really good to play your mom. And I'm thinking, blah, 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 blah. And I went, Betty fucking White.
Yeah,
and then I had to throw a shoe at her. And I was like, I can't throw a shoe at Betty White. What a class act.
Okay, so Dale, your very intense 2-episode arc of Breaking Bad is famous. You're a meth addict with a ton of sores on your face. How long did it take to be put in makeup, and how long did it take to get it off?
I used to say, I think I exaggerated, that it was like a 3-hour makeup putting on, but I know it was at least 2 hours. They carefully craft all these blisters with this gelatin stuff the night before. And Vince Gilligan, he was not on set. He was back in LA, but he was on the phone with like every person on set, makeup, hair, AD, wardrobe, giving notes. And so all I know is that makeup kept coming back going, Vince wants 2 more lesions right above your right eyebrow, 2 inches up near your forehead. And he wants another Band-Aid on the ring finger on the left hand, but down below this knuckle. I mean, it was that freaking
specific.
He
That's
was
fascinating.
So on-hand specific. And of course, when you're in the makeup trailer, they usually have printed out pictures of, if you Google meth addicts, all of those faces. And the hardest thing is that I get recognized from Breaking Bad the most of all, and I get it. I cannot hide this chin, and my hair. It's like when I go to the airport, I'm one of those randomly selected people that they think are carting drugs. I guess I just have a rough face. So, but I'm like, really? Because I was in the makeup chair for a really long time.
Hours.
But no, I love being recognized from that. That was taking them off, I'm sure was less. I'm sure they did that very quickly, about half an hour, 45 minutes. I have very sensitive skin anyway. I'm very prone to acne, and so they always, I think, try to clean my face well and get everything off, the glue and stuff. I mean, that was a short stint, but I do remember being in the chair for a long time.
All right, Dale, one of your earliest credits is in the TV movie Cagney and Lacey, Together Again, where you starred as a homeless woman whose husband disappeared. All of your scenes were opposite the great Tyne Daly. Tell us, did you have a good working relationship with her? And did that lead to your recurring role on the aforementioned Christie?
Yes, and yes, and yes. Actually, Christie came first.
Oh, okay.
But Tyne, the best thing, she gave me some great advice. Because I'd met all these people on Christie that all lived in LA, and the crew and everything, the other actors, I had been thinking about making the move to LA from New York. And I thought, if I'm ever going to do it, I should do it now. And, I remember Tyne told me, she goes, just remember, Dale, that your look is very different from what LA perhaps markets right now. She goes, but embrace the fact that you look the way you do, because you will work more as you get older. You will have a long career because you're a character actress. And I think softening the blow a little bit, although I'd already been in New York for 10 years, I knew what the deal was with characters and types.
Right.
But yeah, she's a lovely woman.
Was it hard for you to accept being a character actor as we were young, actors who, are no longer actors, but we love the craft of it? And I'll speak for myself, which is like, I was not okay with sort of accepting that part of me. So was it a difficult thing for you to come to terms with?
Yes, in a way it was. I mean, I do remember one of my professors in college, when we'd go through like this thing of mock interviews, and you're this type, and at that time it was leading lady or character actress, leading character. And I remember Professor Harris said to me, Dale, I just don't know. You fall between those cracks. Write down them. We don't know yet. And that's exactly what I got in New York. It was like, you're not pretty enough this way to be this, and you're not really quirky enough this way to be this. So you just keep falling until something hits. And I think people do come into an age where they work more. I know so many frigging brilliantly talented people that they don't work right off, but maybe 10 years later they start working, or it's subjective. I always knew I had a goofy face. I don't care to watch myself on camera very much, but I've accepted it for what it is and love it for the fact that it's paying my rent.
Yes.
Dale, we know you from your, prestige film and TV credits, but you appear in a pivotal scene in Iron Man 3, right before a big action sequence. What was the most unnecessary but indulgent perk of being on a big budget Marvel movie? Like, how were those craft surfaces?
I don't friggin' remember.
So they weren't like, oh, this is otherworldly.
I love craft services.
Of course.
But yes, you do notice a difference in terms of the quality, where one catering might have steak and lobster and the other one had burgers and hot dogs, maybe a turkey sandwich. I'd say the most luxurious perk. I know it's supposed to be anonymous, but we're on a little break. We're waiting for them to set up lights, and this golf cart appears in front of me, and it's Robert Downey Jr. and his driver and a couple of other people. I'm like, come on, Dale, we're going to go. We're going to go have a little meeting. And I was like, what? We're going to talk about the script? What? Come on, Dale. And so I get on the golf cart, and we stop, and we pick up a couple of other crew members. We go down to Robert's trailer, Mr. Downey Jr.'s trailer, which was lovely. I'd never been in the Stars trailer before. It was cool and wonderful for him. But you can cut this if you need to. But we actually had an AA meeting. This was my point. He knew that I was sober you can just sniff people out, and there was someone on the crew. And so they had collected like 6 of us on this golf cart that were all friends of Bill's. And Mr. Downey Jr. had a meeting in his trailer. It was just beautiful.
That's very sweet. Yes.
It kept everyone grounded, and the fact that they included me, who I had just sort of joined, but word had spread, and the kind of stress of being the lead in a film like that and carrying the weight. Anything that can keep you grounded. He had a lot of really good people around him, and he's just a lovely man.
I love that.
And I didn't get to work with him long enough, but he was a class act. He set the tone for that set. It was fun and curious, and everybody worked hard. It was a joy.
I love that. That is, like, he is a class act.
I like to see people have comebacks when they've made mistakes.
Yeah.
He's too talented not to be a part of this world.
Okay, Dale, you play a bartender opposite Barbra Streisand and Seth Rogen in the 2012 comedy The Guilt Trip. Obviously, you were already, as we've said, very established at that point, but were you nervous to act opposite Barbra Streisand? It really seems like a terrifying venture.
Yeah. I was terrified, of course. I had no idea what to expect. And I remember that they put me in this outfit where I think I still had a nice stomach at that time. I had bell bottoms, and my midriff was showing, a little halter thing with big titties coming out. Bartender, it's a strip club. Anyway, I do remember the first thing Miss Streisand said to me. So I'm behind the bar, and they've got me up on a platform, so I'm even higher. And Seth has been there. He's introduced himself to me. He's funny and lovely. Then here comes Miss Streisand. And like I said, I just didn't know what to expect. And Seth was so generous and instantly said, "Oh, Barbara, you know Dale. She was in Winter's Bone. And Dale, this is Barbara." So he broke the ice for us. And she goes, "Oh, yes, of course." And I think she shook my hand or acknowledged. But then what I loved was she sort of looked at me, looked at my outfit, and was like, "So Dale, did wardrobe supply you this, or is this from your own closet?"
I appreciate that.
I said, "Honey, I played a lot of trashy roles, but this did not come from my closet." I don't show that midriff anymore.
That's a pro move.
Yeah,
I feel like
she broke the ice.
She was lovely, and my God, y'all, what a beautiful, beautiful woman. But my favorite story, can I tell this about Babs?
Of course.
It's a scene where we go out to help her fix the car. And I'm in the parking lot with her, and then there's a snowstorm, which we filmed in Santa Clarita at an old Mexican restaurant that's not there anymore. But while we're standing there, waiting and waiting, of course, for the setup, we start having a little conversation. And she goes, "What do you do in your spare time?" I said, "Well, my husband and I really love to camp," which we do. We go camping a lot. We've really taken advantage of the state and seen a lot of things. And she said, "Oh, well, where's your favorite place to go?" And I said, "Oh, nobody's ever heard of it. It's like 3 hours northeast, the Kern River. It's the lower Sequoia." She goes, "That's where I spent my honeymoon." And I was like, "What? She and Mr. Brolin, she said he rented this beautiful studio, like cabin that had a fireplace. We were right on the river. We fished. And it was literally, I was like, "Wait, you had your honeymoon in the place that I love to camp? Wow, I love you even more." It was just such a wake-up call. She's such a grounded, down-to-earth person. Just go freaking camp. She didn't camp, but they were in a rustic lodge.
Right.
On the river with and I actually think they call it the Barbra Streisand Memorial Room. But it was just, that gave us another opening. And by God, I'm sitting next to, I think she's probably, of all the people I've worked with, that was probably the most godlike, being in her presence. And she was lovely and kind and genuine. And what a blessing. How grateful am I that I've gotten to work with so many wonderful people and experience.
Okay, Dale, last question. It's a little tricky one here, so go with us.
Okay.
We're going to list some character names you've played over the years, and we want to see if you can name the project that the name is.
All right.
Spooge's Woman.
Oh, Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Skillet.
Our very own.
Yes. Earth Mama.
Was it Alan Ball's pilot? No. It was Perfect Getaway.
It's exactly right. Yes.
Oh my God, 3 for 3. Okay, and take the next one.
Una the Wench.
Oh, that was. Oh my God. That was definitely from this strange little thing I did for Pirates of the Caribbean, Wedlocked.
Yes.
Steve, my husband, and I when they used to take Polaroids of you when you're in the makeup trailer. Now they don't do Polaroids, but I would come home time after time again with these hideous pictures of characters I played. Una the Wench is like tops.
She has one eye. She has one eye for listeners.
I have very little teeth anyway. I have very small teeth, and most people think I'm toothless.
Oh my
God.
God.
When Una the Wench was, when they black them out, it's really funny. But yeah.
Okay, last one here, Dale. Cummy Barrow.
Oh, Bonnie and Clyde.
You did amazing.
5 for 5.
Dale Dickey, this has been a total pleasure. Thank you so much for being a guest on the show.
Guys, thank you. I hate to stop, but I love the talk, so you've got to cut me off at some point.
Okay, here's one of the things that I love so much about Dale Dickey. First of all the connections to previous guests, Connie Schulman and Beth Grant, which I loved hearing about. And honestly, we said this in an interview, but when we talked to Beth Grant, she had just gotten off the phone with Dale Dickey. And she said to us, I was just talking to Dale Dickey and we were just talking about our faces. And it resonated so hard with me because as someone from the Midwest with a face that can only be described as the Great Plains, I had been told at an early age that my face was made to wear a bonnet, and to me, I had to reckon with that because like I look like I'm from the Midwest. I look like I was like raised on a farm. That is what my face looks like. And Dale Dickey said, you know, there's something rural about my face, and reckoning with that and realizing that like I'm going to get cast as in Southern roles, in roles where like this character is from the country. It was so interesting to me, and hearing her talk about that really plainly, I think is one of the best parts of this podcast because it's so true how tough this business is, and to find a niche in this business is so difficult. And I loved hearing about sort of her progress, like through the theater, getting discovered as a server on the Upper West Side. How cool is that? And I just think that she is really, truly an artist, and hearing her, we actually have a really great snippet that we're going to share with you at a future moment. That was one of the most surprising things that we could have heard from Dale Dickey. And I will just say that it has something to do with Stephen Sondheim.
Also, Dickey masters the squirt, or whatever the pulled quote was from like the Chicago Tribune or something, made me laugh so hard. And I loved hearing about all of the like logistics that particular review talked about, all of the logistics of the women learning how to actually do hair and how to time it with like the actual running time of the show and the running time of the scenes. And it was like very cool. And I loved hearing about her theater beginnings and just like, yeah, wow, so cool. Also getting to hang out with a fucking wolf or a dog wolf that had fucking mascara on it. I was like, this is so weird and so cool. She was like, yeah, back to the puppies. I loved Dale Dickey.
She was so great. Folks, we hope you enjoyed this week's interview. This is the time of the show where we connect this week's guest to next week's guest via actresses that they have worked with. So, Damien, have you solved the clue for this week? Can you connect this week's guest to next?
I think I can. Let's hear it. Dale Dickey appeared in Sordid Lives, the TV series, with Olivia Newton-John. Olivia Newton-John was, of course, in Grease with former guest of this show, Dinah Manoff. Dinah Manoff was in Leader of the Pack on Broadway with Annie Golden. Annie Golden was on Orange is the New Black with Leah Delaria. Leah Delaria appears in the gay episode of Friends where Susan and Carol get married, featuring former guest of this show, Jessica Hecht. Jessica Hecht was in Special on Netflix with next week's guest.
It was such a treat when I saw them both showing up in Special. Next week is a real doozy, I think. A hootenanny. Beautiful people. Thank you so much for joining us on this week's episode of You Might Know Her From. If you want more of what we're putting down, you can follow us on social media. You can find me at Rodeman. That's RODEMANNE. It's my last name with my first name at the end. And my beautiful headphoned friend over here, Damien Bellino. That's Damien with an A. Make sure you get it right. Damien Bellino on all mediums.
You Might Know Her From is produced by us. That is Ann Lieber Rodeman and Damien Michael Bellino. We want to thank our consultants at Grumpy Entertainment. They are wonderful. They are generous. They are kind. That would be Jason Jude Hill and Daniel Sears. And all of that silky smooth, silky nutmeg ganache editing you hear is also by the wonderful Daniel Sears.
Special thanks to Gang. All the music that you hear on each and every episode of You Might Know Her From is courtesy of the Great Gang Band. They are 3/4 women. They are from Philly, and you can download or stream Gang's music wherever you listen to your tunes. Also, if you need to quickly find every episode of You Might Know Her From that we referenced in this episode, that's Madhur Jaffrey, that is Eileen Davidson, that is Connie Schulman, that is Beth Grant. All of those episodes are going to be easily linked for you in the show notes. That's where we put each and every little tidbit for your eyeballs and your ear holes. Did the puke take surprise you on Sex and the City? Because I gasped. I did. And I was annoyed at myself that I was shocked by it, but I was shocked.
I was shocked. I rewatched it like 3 times. Because at first, I don't think I noticed if she threw up it or not. So I went back to confirm that she also vomited. And then there's like a great wide shot where you can see the puke like spewing out of her mouth. And I was very into that because I felt like Carrie needed to also be embarrassed. It couldn't just be like her going on a date. Like, that seemed like modern Sex in the City to send Carrie on like a terrible date where a guy throws up. So I needed to see her puke, and I was glad. And then I was thinking about like the platypus vomit pack that they had to each have like under their costume, and I was really into that. I remember Hope Davis had to wear one of those in God of Carnage on Broadway, and I was like really into it because I knew the understudy for that role, and I just was really into the idea of a platypus pack of vomit on Miss Sarah Jessica Parker.